Welcome to this next episode of YouTube. It's time for the adults to start setting some rules with these pups. And what you're going to see here is Aidan on top of the den, and Bolts is going to come behind him and do a ride up and actually knock Aidan over. Now, of course, Aidan is a pretty strong pack leader, so part of this is social, and he's allowing Bolts to dominate him and stand over him and pin him. But we notice the intensity of these pups getting a little bit increased, and you'll see a few clips here that show not only Bolts but Luna getting a little bit dominant with Aidan. And so again, Aidan's probably just being a little bit social and kind of taking it, but there are times when Aidan's getting a little bit frustrated. So that's typical of this time of the year. Not only do we have some cold that's kind of stimulating it, but some hormones that are probably increasing a little bit. And so here again is Aidan rolling around his back and what started out to be social play, and it got a little bit intense, and you see Aidan getting a little threat display, pressing those ears back and being a little bit intimidating. And there's nothing more intimidating than when we're feeding Luna. And this is a situation, I'm kind of behind the camera here, and I'm actually feeding Luna next to the rocks here, and Aidan tried to come in on it, and there was a cache chicken wing, and Luna just went after him. So you can see by Aidan's ears, he's definitely given her a pretty wide berth when she's feeding. So that's good for Luna, who needs all the nutrients she can get. But as you can see here, she's doing good. The wrestling continues with these two pup mates. This is Denali. His ears are kind of off to the side. He doesn't necessarily want to get on it either. And again, Luna is nothing to mess with. She's small, but she's definitely got a real strong personality. You can see a little hop there. That's the one thing that we are dealing with. Last week we said the snow was here to stay, and I guess we were wrong. It melted, but now it froze again. The ground is pretty rock hard, and this is a bone that's kind of stuck in the ground, frozen in the ground. Luna doesn't quite know what to do with that. But we are managing this with straw. And again, we still have her in Adequan, but Luna loves her straw bed, so we've got several places where she has bedding that she can lay down and rest. And Aidan likes to try to rest too, but unfortunately, usually when Aidan finds a nice straw bed, there's a pup coming in to come on and climb on him. And this was actually a clip I filmed at about 4:30 at night, well, afternoon, but looks like night here in the pen, so it's got a little bit of that reflective eye response there from the wolves. But this was Aidan, who just happened to bed down on a nice piece of soft straw. So, like I said, the interactions with the adults and the pups are getting a little bit more intense, and this clip here has got a lot of growling. And this was that same night. This is Denali just finally getting fed up with the pup rambunctious behavior, and he's going to put Bolts down a little bit, and Bolts goes into a submission there. Luna doesn't. And you can see kind of I'm pretty close with the angle of the camera there, because they're right in front of the camera trying to interact. And finally Aidan comes up after all that squabbling with Denali, and he comes in and he finally puts Luna down in a submissive posture. You know, she's just been pushing and biting and grabbing and just kind of doing whatever, and she comes back up and the snap response to us. And definitely some respect issues going on. So as I said earlier, Denali is being nothing more than a big juvenile, and here he's playing tug of war with the pups, and Aidan's trying to put a little bit of a threat display there towards Denali, and it actually worked on Bolts, who let go, but Denali didn't. And that's last week's what's left of last week's deer, just nothing more than a hide. And you'll see in this clip, Denali then goes back to the pond. He starts licking at the bottom of the pond, something that melted and refroze again. And Luna comes down to investigate, and it's not very long before Bolts, again, nobody likes to be around Luna sometimes because she likes to growl at everybody's face. But once Denali goes back up the hill, Luna follows him back up out of the pond, and she immediately goes and possesses that hide that previously Denali had won, and now she's going to take possession of it. Luna has very good cognitive skills of where all the caches are, where all the food is. She definitely beats everyone to food when it comes to activity. We are kind of transitioning the pups into, instead of every morning feeding, trying to give them a couple of times a week either a beaver or a deer leg or something like that, and maybe just feed 2 or 3 times in the mornings. At this point, again, we're continuing to feed them really as much as they want. It's just a matter of how they want it delivered. They're getting pretty tired of ground beef and the morning servings. They seem to prefer to be carcass eaters, and so we'll maybe on a Wednesday night or Monday night or something like that, we'll thaw beaver and give them a beaver carcass. You see Bolts here eating the liver out of the beaver, which is our preference that Luna has it, but Luna likes the tails for the fat rather than eating the internal organs sometimes, which has more nutrients. So anyways, so obviously things are going a little excitable in the exhibit pack, and that gives Grizzly more opportunity to kind of watch and listen. And then this was filmed in the morning. Lots of sounds going on. Light snow is starting to come in. Temperatures are about 12 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, sorry that I'm using empirical measurements, but we're in northern Minnesota, and this is Fahrenheit is the language that we speak. So it is cool by human terms, not so cool by wolf terms. It's really a comfortable day for all the wolves, and lots of raven activity. One of the things about feeding excess carcasses is we now have ravens who typically winter in social groups flocking the wolf pen. There might be 20, 30, 40 ravens out there after a feeding. So Grizzly has a lot of opportunity to listen to things and to kind of pay attention to the activities, not only in the exhibit pack, but what's going on behind him in retirement. And again, just really good stimulus for Grizzly to have that high vantage point, to be able to see out and then be able to follow through and listen. He's got a great winter coat, and he's again doing real well, and he's got some really good social contact with people. He's one of the wolves who has the most human interactions, because there's level 1 handlers who are not going into the exhibit pack or into the retired pack that are willing and able to go in with Grizzly. And so his willingness and calmness in accepting handlers maximizes his social contact. So he's doing good. And again, you see a very thick winter coat on him. I would say that he's looking bigger than he really is, and that's always the surprise when he sheds in the spring. He's really not that big of a wolf, about 116 pounds, but definitely that hair makes up for it. So in retirement, Shadow is doing much better. We certainly see an improvement in how he feels and how he interacts. The alertness again is back, where before we saw him kind of moping around a little bit. He's very keyed into activity, and as a matter of fact, there's a staff member pulling beaver out of the freezer when this was filmed, so he hears every movement in the wheelbarrow, the door, the gates, etc., and very keyed into it. So you can see the eye clarity tells us he's very, very alert, and we know just from handling him he's feeling really good. And one of the things that we did see, again, a little bit of some interesting interactions between these two. This is now them greeting the wolf care staff and smelling the camera and the coats of the wolf care staff. But again, we're back to seeing Shadow raised leg urinating and scraping the ground in an excitable fashion of broadcasting that scent when he marks his territory, and then kind of with a little spring in his step again. And as he approaches Malik, you're going to see him again show that tail posture that he was kind of lacking here a few weeks ago when we noticed something wasn't right with him, and he's showing that dominance back again, and that's making Malik again a little bit more anxious, and you're going to start to see again a little bit of that play bow, which means go down to the front haunches, invite chase. But neither one of these guys really want to invite chase. Neither one of them want to be chased by the other. So it's kind of just this interesting springboard whirling around interactions. But as you said, as you see a Shadow approach here, notice his tail goes right up to a T2 and then drops down again. But he's going to be back to doing a chin rest and doing a couple of those play bows, chin rest kind of interactions. Malik at this point, keeping his tail moderately low, does a turnaround so he can face off, but he does avert Shadow's gaze, and that's the behavioral indicators that tell us that Shadow's still really dominant over Malik. And even though there's a couple of things going on here, this is all just posturing, and that's what these guys are good at, is posturing and displaying body language that really avoids any more conflict between them. So a little enjoyable to watch, especially since they're 12-and-a-half-year-old wolves. You know, we've had 12-and-a-half-year wolves before who couldn't spring like this. So it's enjoyable to watch these two because they are so active and they're so fit for their age structure. So these guys are healthy and doing well. So like I said, we never did figure out what issue Shadow had, but you know, it was something that was relatively short-lived, and he's back to feeling good. So that's it for this week's YouTube. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll keep you posted if we see anybody in the exhibit pack starting to show some leadership and some discipline to the puppies. We'll definitely record it. Thank you.